Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Sunday Live. And today, of course, happy Mother's Day and at the same day, happy Europe Day, because we have both today. And I'm glad to see some of you already, although it is Mother's Day. I know many spend their mother as soon as it's possible with all the corona situation together with their mothers today. So I'm happy to see you still. I think it's something about the notifications today, Katrina. Thank you for telling me that. For some reason, there are some notification issues recently or for quite some time now with YouTube. And Max was discussing that as well, and I don't know why this is happening. Seemed to have happened today as well. But as I said before, no matter what, how many people are watching live, I'm still happy to do those live streams for everybody watching. So good evening to everyone who still made it. And in the chat already I can see Katrina. Hi Katrina. Hi Tom. Thanks for being here again. Hi Joachim. And let's see if there's anybody else I can see. No, if you haven't. The participant list is funny as well. Even if people wrote something, I don't see them in that list sometimes. But let's still continue. Today, of course, I'm going to talk about the elections. It was, let's say, quite an interesting few days that went by. On Thursday, there were local elections in England. There were regional elections in Scotland and in Wales. And in London, there was, like in several other cities, the election of the mayor, and there were some more elections as well. But first of all, Valerio, thank you for the super chat. Scotland will roll the dice for independence referendum, he's asking. Let me get to that point a little bit later. Valerio, I will talk about the Scottish election first, of course. Hi, Colin. Greetings to Ireland, and hi, Fricke. Moin moin. Scotland is a thing where some people, when they see the results, have different opinions about the result, and I want to take that apart a little bit today. So let's give you some facts about the results. I've got them here, and let's go through the important parties. So the SNP, as you all probably know, got 64 seats in this election. That's one seat more than the last election and one seat less than they would have needed for an overall majority. They did that once, but why that is not that surprising, I will tell you later. So they gained 3 seats in constituencies. They took 1 from the Tories and took 2 seats from Labour. But at the same time, they lost 2 seats on the regional lists, and that has to do with the voting system. And the Tories got 31 seats. They lost 2 in the constituencies and gained 2 in the regions. Labour got 22 seats. They lost 1 in the constituencies. Oh no, I was wrong there. The Tories lost 2, Labour lost 1. That was that way around. And Labour lost 1 seat in the regional seats. The Greens got 8 seats on the regional lists. They never got any in the constituencies, so that was not so surprising. As far as I know, no, it was always the Liberal Democrats. The Liberal Democrats got 4 seats. That's 1 seat less compared to last time. They got 4 seats, all 4 seats in the constituencies, and no seats on the regional list. Last time they had 1. And that's it with the parties getting seats at all. There are some interesting things. Alper got no seat at all. So the tactical voting that... oops. I just saw the oops was I forgot to take out the charity link from last week for the KCM. So if you still want to donate to them, always do that. It's a great institution, but They will pop up today a few times because with all the work I did this week, there's a lot of politics going on as well. I forgot to take them out, and so it will pop up today, but it doesn't harm anybody. It's a very good institution. But let's go back to ELIPA. Alex Salmond and his plan to get the people vote tactically obviously didn't work. They got 44,000 votes in the regions and only 1.7%. That's by far not enough to get any seat from the regional lists. One reason, of course, was that the people didn't vote tactically, which is not supposed to happen by the sense of the voting system anyway. And on the other hand, the unionists seem to have voted tactically because of the promotion of tactical voting of Alex Salmond. That's the funny part of that, because there you can see a lot more tactical voting between Labour and the Conservatives than you could see with the SNP and ELIPA. So that's quite an interesting thing. It might even be, we will have to wait until their deep analysis, but it might even be that Alex Salmond really hurt the SNP with his tactics and didn't gain anything because they didn't get any seat. But the good thing is, on the other hand, if you have a look at this, when you look at Scotland, Scottish people seem to be really reasonable people, because two really, well, questionable parties, Reform UK and the UKIP, didn't get very far. The Reform UK got 5,000 votes and 0.2%, and UKIP got 3,800 votes with 0.1%. So Scottish people seem to be very reasonable people and not voting for parties like that. It's a little bit like my city, where not so many people vote for the right-wing extremists from the AfD. So we seem to have something in common. A very good thing about this election, before I come to the system, is the comparably high voter turnout. So people were really interested in this election, and I think it was 63% this time. Yeah, 63% voters turnout. That's a change of 7.6% compared to the last election, and that means that 63% of 4.3 million voters have indeed voted. And still, the SNP got out stronger than last time. Before I sound too praising on the SNP, I'm with the SNP on the independence part. And because too many people don't really listen and comment weird stuff under the videos, I say it once again, my step-grandfather was Scottish. And I know his opinion he had that time, and I will promote Scottish independence as long as it hasn't happened yet. So I do have personal links to that, and I will not let anybody tell me I have to get out of there because I'm a foreigner. I have personal stuff to do with that, and so I will not hide my intentions on that. And I always made very clear where I'm standing on that. But on other political parts of the political manifesto of the SNP, I don't agree at all. So just want to make that clear again. But the SNP did something quite impressive. They got 64 seats from 73 constituencies. They didn't get a single one from, they got 2 from regional lists. But that is a lot. 62 from 73 is a hell of a lot. Think about this. I saw something today. If Boris Johnson would have done the same in the general elections, he would have 558 seats in the House of Commons. Just imagine that. And so it is an impressive win. And all for unity, I thought so. Thank you, Katrina, for reminding me of them. Another right-wing party, they only got 0.9%, so it's nothing big either. But I was with the SNP. You must imagine Boris Johnson having 558 seats of the House of Commons, and that is what Nicola Sturgeon made happen in Scotland with 64 seats out of 129. and that she missed the one seat for her own majority in a system that is not made for one party having a single majority. Or I have to rephrase that. The system was set up so that no party will ever achieve that. They did that once in 2011, and they almost did that again yesterday, in a system that is made to prevent that. And that should tell everybody how successful they were yesterday. And with all the other parts of the manifesto a bit more in the background, the main part in the campaign was the independence vote. And that tells us a clear picture about the intentions of the majority of the Scottish voters. If they voted for the SNP, most of them had in mind that they are voting pro-independence, and the same goes with the Greens. And if you look at them together, they have 72 seats in Parliament, pro-independence parties. So there is a big majority for Scottish independence. And that is a clear sign to Boris Johnson as well. Even if he's going for, on the one side, for a charm offensive to the Scots now, probably in advance for the referendum campaign that I think is unavoidable in the midterm. And on the other hand, he's still saying no. So we might end up seeing the whole thing in court with Johnson saying no, although there's a big pro-Indie majority in Parliament. And we can be quite sure that Nicola Sturgeon will be First Minister once again in Scotland. So that part was really interesting. About the charm offensive of Johnson, I'm going to have a video on Tuesday. Yeah, I haven't filmed it yet. I wrote the script. So that's on Tuesday, and a little bit more about Sturgeon's tactics for after the election. I will have another video on Tuesday. So I won't spill too much of that today. Sorry. And I sometimes have to clean my glasses because there's one fun part about Germany today. And especially where I'm living, but not only where I'm living, but also where I'm living. I'm not very south in Germany. But still, we had about 30 degrees today. And that's it, how warm it is in my studio right now. Because in the beginning of May, when it was cold all the time before, we suddenly have 30 degrees. And they told us that would have happened yesterday, but it didn't. Yesterday was quite cold. Today we suddenly got 30 degrees. So it's warm in here. Another reason why I don't wear a suit today. We have some part about election today as well, because the Social Democrats confirmed their chancellor candidate. So the race is completely on now for the German elections in September, without Merkel, because I just saw someone, Henk mentioned Merkel. Merkel spoke during a World War II, remembering to the Dutch nation. It was a wonderful speech. It shows how the Netherlands and Germany are great friends. Yeah, I saw that. Conservator was so nice to send me the link to a TV report from the Netherlands in Dutch. Fortunately, that's another fun thing. If they don't speak too fast, I do understand most of what they're saying on the Dutch news, because Dutch and something which is a kind of old, very old German dialect here, Plattdeutsch, is so similar that I can understand this, because my grandparents partly still spoke Plattdeutsch, and that's why I still understand a lot of Dutch. Reading is easier than listening, I must say, but it was enough to understand everything in that TV report about the Remembrance Day. And I thought as well that it was a very good sign about how everything changed after World War II, how the generations still remembered what is their task now, not to let that happen again, what happened 70 years ago. And that was the reason, even if a lot of Brexiteers always deny that, that was the main reason that the EU came to life and their predecessors. It never was just a trade pact. It was meant to keep peace between former enemies, and especially Germany and France. Do you know how many times they were at war? Or so there, Christian, for example, Christian Kruse, you will remember that Prussia fought against Denmark before they fought France in the 1870s, just to be able to do that. So there were fights all going all around, and we have seen between those countries that were fighting so many times in the centuries before. We haven't seen them fighting in the last 70 years, and that is a big achievement, and that is a big achievement by the EU as well, because trade alone doesn't stop it. Trade alone doesn't give you peace. You need more. Because if you remember, who was the biggest trading partner of Germany before the wars? It was France. It still didn't stop them to start a war. And on the other hand, the EU made it happen that people had far more exchanges, that people got closer together. I said that a lot of times before. We had a lot of exchange with our Dutch neighbors. I'm not that far from the Dutch border here, and we have inter-regional cooperation here. The mayor of my town and the mayor of a Dutch town changed posts one day in between. So the mayor of the Dutch town was mayor in my town, and my mayor was a mayor in the Dutch town for one day, to get more understanding for the people on the other side of the border. And still there is no real border anymore. We even have a kind of one city where the border is running right through it. So the two halves of the city, as I like to call them, are just different because on the one side they're called by the German name, on the other side they're called by the Dutch name. But in the end it doesn't really matter. They're working on both sides of the border, and you don't usually see it except that they, to make clear how this is working, just put a line on the street to show there's nothing separating us, although we are part of two countries. And that's what the EU is about. And that's the important thing why I mentioned Europe Day today. And I agree, Tom, happy Europe Day, as I said in the beginning, because there are big achievements, and there are big achievements still going on. I still have some questions from last week left. I don't want to just let them go into the bin because we didn't come to them anymore with Simona. I'm going to answer them later. And there's one thing about the EU I should pick out now already. How can we make it... just give me a second. How would you make EU more approachable or understandable to citizens? Many people in my country seem to feel it's quite distant from their daily lives. Cine Mirelas sent that in, and you're here, I saw. So thank you for that question for last week. And that's a very tough one, because there's only so much they can do from their sides, from the EU institutions, by reaching out to everyone, or even the MEPs by reaching out to everyone. They also have to use social media and press releases and stuff like that. And of course, events. We do quite a number of events here in my hometown when it's not in the pandemic. Try to reach the people here. But the people on the other side have to be interested as well. If you're not interested, it's hard to reach you. And that's the same problem with local politics. I said that before, many people voted for me. They don't even know what they voted for. They don't know about our district council. I'm quite sure that 80-90% of the people who voted for the district council don't really know what a district council does. And the same problem we have with the EU. If the people don't want to inform themselves, you can't reach them all. It's just impossible, and that's a little bit of a vicious circle. You can't reach them, they don't want to inform themselves, And then you will always have the problem that they don't really know stuff about this. The EU is doing tons of events, inviting people from all over Europe over and over again, like last time with a platform on the future of Europe. That's the future of Europe started today. And still, if the people don't come on their own initiative, you will not really have a chance to do so. It's the same with this. Max and Phil are doing this longer than me, and now Phil got an impressive number of subscribers already. But to be honest, if I had any entertaining talent, I know some people call me boring, but I have to live with that. I'm used to lecture, and so I'm not an entertainer. I'm not standing on some stage juggling balls or whatever. But if I were an entertainer, if I had that talent and would have an entertaining channel, with all the work I put into this channel, I probably would be at 100,000, 200,000 subscribers now. And that's the problem. Politics is not something where you can reach a giant number of people with. And the EU has the same issue. And that's the problem. As long as the people are not interested, you will never reach too many of them. I have no recipe for getting people interested in stuff, because it's often complicated, and you know yourself. If you are at home in your spare time, you don't want complicated. You want simple. You want entertaining. And that's another problem why these right-wing party here and the Brexit campaign and stuff like this were so successful. They just offered simple for something complicated. It was lies, and it's lies with the right-wing people here as well. But they are offering simple, and too many people fall for that, because I have to be honest, too many people are too lazy to check if that's true. And we probably have to do something in our educational system to change something there. I know some other countries are far ahead of Germany, for example. In this case, I think it was especially countries in the north, like Denmark, Sweden, Finland or something in school. They have more stuff like social media responsibility or something like this in school. Sorry for that. I just saw the comment from Tom. Lies or lies? Well, I don't know about the lies, but definitely lies. Now, are you really mocking me for my English now? I thought I'd get this only from Brexiteers all the time. No, I know where that came from. No, but there is a responsibility, and definitely a part of education responsibility, that we train our children better to cope with social media nowadays. And I have to say, in Germany, we are far behind. And I said this when I had the interview with Simone. Social media is not the best. Most parties are not the best in doing that. And so there is a lot of room for improvement as well. But in case of the European Union, they are really bringing out a lot, even on social media. And so I have to give it to them. They are better than most of the parties here in my country. So the EU is a step ahead of others. Oh, Dalton, the part is you are trying that with generalizations as well. UK is doing a lot better than you lot. In what? Want to come up with a vaccination again? Germany will have finished vaccination the same date as the UK. So you can skip that one. By the way, I'll be most probably get my vaccination on Tuesday. Yeah, Tom, I understood that correctly. Don't worry. I knew that you were mocking me in a friendly way, so don't worry. I got that part of humor. Um, Besides all stereotypes, Germans do have humor. Our problem just is that people from other countries usually don't understand that, because they don't understand our humor. Um, but I love British humor, by the way. No, but about the vaccination, I will. If I'm a bit lucky, I'll get my vaccination on Tuesday, because my doctor called me that they most probably have one spare dose on Tuesday with all that is planned. And so I get vaccinated on Tuesday. If not, I'll be vaccinated a week later, because then we have no prioritization for one vaccine. But that's one vaccine that we will not order again. So first of all, I would let them vaccinate me with AstraZeneca 1 week later, even if it's in a lot of discussions recently. But usually the troubles they had were with women, so I'm not that in trouble with that, and it's easier to use what we have. But today it will be another video for Tuesday, but I can say this: the EU will not order anymore. We know all the trouble with the contract and so on, and so they decided they don't order anymore AstraZeneca. That's it. From June there will be no orders, and that's it. So they can continue with their vaccination nationalism and keep that stuff. We will have enough of BioNTech and Moderna and stuff like that, and so it's enough. We even ordered. The EU as a whole once again ordered 1.8 billion doses of BioNTech Pfizer this week, for the years until 2023. That's for boosted jabs and for possible mutations as well. Mini, thank you for your super chats. Don't worry, I understand your humor, Mark. Thank you very much. That's another thing with the t-shirts. I just saw someone like your shirt. You might have seen that recently. I put out what I was planning for a long time. Put out some statement shirts. I don't know a proper English translation for what I would call that in German, because it's really Sprüche in German. And I wanted to do that because that's part of my humor too. Even if I am close to crossing some line, I've got some of them there I haven't uploaded yet. You might say I crossed a line there, but I'm looking forward to your opinion there. So I really loved it, and I got a lot of positive I'm losing my English right now. Oh boy. I can't believe it. Well, they told me positive things about the slogans. Thank you, dude, on the shirts, and so I just like to do them, and I like to wear them anyway. And since I got that fat because of the pandemic, I have them all in black as well. So black helps not to look that fat. And because I'm one of those queer, straight, human guys. We are a bit picky about how fat you look. So do I need a reboot, Elliot? Or what needs a reboot? I need a reboot sometimes as well. No, but I was talking about vaccination. So I'll be vaccinated on Tuesday or a week later. But I will be. So for everyone of the anti-vaxxers watching, I don't see any problem there. I will not get a chip in my arm because of that. And thank you, Katrina. The video stream is pixelating. It's fun because on my screen, YouTube tells me I've got an excellent connection. Yeah, I love it when that happens. Give me 1 second. No, my CPU is doing fine as well. It's only on 45%, so it's not that bad as well. Audio and video not in sync. Thomas, is the audio ahead again? Because then I know what to do. We had that once before. It's sometimes OBS is doing an update and then it's not working that much or that properly again. But where was that? No. Well, that happens when you don't know where your settings were. 1 second. So, is that better now? Because I put in some delay in the audio, and I hope that's working better now. But my stream looks fine here. That's blurred, as I would say. Okay. Oh, I love this. Max had some issues with the stream recently. But if I end the stream now, I will have to set up a completely new stream. So, let's see what I can do. So let me know if that's better. With the sound or not. Sometimes it's just weird. But Cthulhu, aloha, greetings to Canada. Today you managed, that's great. That's wonderful. But when we had the interruption with the audio, and I just leave it like that now. But I'm just going to have a quick look who's all here now. I haven't said hello to 27, 47, 27. Hi there, we've been there before. Elliot, Facts Trump Prejudice. Oh, that's a nice one as well. Can I steal that? I use Bring Facts, Not Fiction for one of my shirts. Hi, FSM is the dog. Hi, Hank. Hi, KW. Hi, Pete. Hi, Regan Elite. Hi, Simon Says 55. Hi, Steve. Hi, Thomas. And hi, Wolf. So we had some more here than in the beginning. I'm a member of the Borg Collective. Should I start assimilating? Just a little fun fact to get away a little bit from all the political stuff, because, you know, when you're on my channel a little bit longer, that I'm a district councillor and the deputy district mayor here. And politics started again after the Easter break, and that's why I have a lot of appointments and sometimes have to make more videos in advance. And to get away from all the politics, when I'm even doing politics on my YouTube, I do read, for example, Voyager books. I wrote another one. I haven't written a Voyager book. I read another one I bought a long time ago. About the return of Voyager to Earth and a Borg virus there. So Hank put it right in the right moment. So if I had a Borg virus that they used in that book, I would have many more subscribers than just almost 11,000. So that would work much better than the natural way. So, still, just a few words. We got totally away from the elections, but a few words to the rest of the elections. I talked about Scotland a lot, and there will be videos on tomorrow and on Tuesday about Scotland as well. Happy Europe Day to you too, Wolf. There were also elections people were looking at in London. So Sadiq Khan has been re-elected, but there's a special voting system with a first vote and a second vote, so vote prioritizing. We have this in some parts of Germany too, and because of that, he got over the line and in the end won with 55%. Collective. Subscribers as a collective. I would have thought about this on a Borg channel. Wolf are going to think about that. But that fits to the shirt. I hope nobody of you can hear me thinking. Because, as you know, I usually try to be the polite guy I'm usually am in my videos and on my live streams. I only snap a very limited amount of times. And some people who regularly insult me and stuff like that, what you have to live with if you're out in public, it's good that they can't hear me thinking. So, Sadiq Khan, he won with 55% in London. I think he lost about a percentage compared to last time, but in the end he got more votes than Boris Johnson in his re-election, as far if I remember correctly. And on the other hand, in Wales we got what we expected. In Wales, Labour got 30 seats, if I'm correct here, and the rest went to the others. Plaid Cymru, or Cymru, I never know how to pronounce that properly, got quite their share. They took a lot of votes from Labour as well, but Labour is still very much in the lead. And so the country is even there very divided. In Wales, Labour is on the top. In Scotland, SNP is on the top. And in England, it's the Tories. And the interesting part was, although it's not that interesting if you're in the topic, is that the Tories haven't been damaged by Brexit. People still believe Boris Johnson did what he promised. He gave us Brexit. Because all the consequences of Brexit, they cannot feel because of the pandemic. So the pandemic was a gift for Boris Johnson. Just imagine we had Brexit on January 1st without the pandemic. And all the damages that were there, nobody could blame on the pandemic. It would all be blamed on Brexit. Yesterday would have looked a lot different, or Thursday and the days after would have looked a lot different without the pandemic. And people have a very short memory. I think it was a video today or tomorrow where I was talking about what all people forgot. To remember, for example, the whole start of the pandemic, how much the Tory government messed that one up. The wallpaper gate, all the lies around Brexit, the promises for Northern Ireland that haven't come true, the promises from Boris Johnson about everything will be as prosperous as a member as the EU. There will be no tariff barriers at all. Nothing will happen. There will be no health certificates and all this crap. But the people have a very short memory and just saw the vaccination success he pulled out in the end after he managed that pandemic much worse than most other leaders around the planet. And so on top of that, we had Labour and Keir Starmer. The way they handled Brexit still is kicking them. And of course that Keir Starmer is running a long-term I don't want to call it campaign, but a long-term work on his leadership in the Labour Party. So nothing really happened recently. Of course, you can't, in a pandemic, attack the government efficiently as you would do in every other situation. We have the same in Germany. The opposition, the reasonable parts of the opposition, are not on a steady attacking mode on the government. In many parts of the work, they cooperate, so we get out as best as possible out of the pandemic as we can. Only the right-wing idiots are running their attacking streak, but that's normal, and nobody's listening anyway. So you have no chance as an opposition leader to really do something in that situation, especially in a situation that is fortunately different from our Bundestag to the House of Commons, where a head of government never answers any question. I haven't seen any PMQ where Boris Johnson ever answered any question from Keir Starmer. If you did that in our parliament, Merkel would be in big trouble. Because to get parliament a little bit more interesting, and based on the PMQs in the UK, they're not shouting that much in our parliament as in the UK. But to make it a little bit more interesting, we have something similar now, where Angela Merkel regularly answers questions, but not from the opposition leader in the start with several questions at once, but from people all over parliament. And if she tries to avoid, she gets a little bit more fire than Boris Johnson does there. And our press would take her apart immediately if she does the same Johnson does in the House of Commons with not answering any question. They wouldn't let her get away with that. Oh, thank you, Katrina. He answered a question once on the order of the vaccine rollout. Yeah, great. Any chance we can shop in Germany again without negative tests soon as a Dutch, Simon? First of all, yeah, technically you can right now, depending where you want to go. But non-technically, I would say don't do it. It was the same with the people from Germany going to the Netherlands. As more openings were there in the Netherlands, I didn't agree with them going. Because we were in a situation with very high incidence numbers from the third wave still, and they were going to the Netherlands to go have a coffee or whatever. And I don't want to encourage anybody to do that, because the best thing still is to keep your distance, to be reasonable until we got the vaccination completed, and then we are planning a lot of stuff to do again. As you might know, I'm the vice president of my carnival club here. We are planning for the next carnival season already. We are optimists. We believe that vaccination will end as it's promised now, and with all the vaccines coming in now, it looks like it will work, and that we can have a normal program from November on, and then a normal carnival in the beginning of next year. And so we are putting in a lot of work now, a lot of planning. We have started working on our carnival truck already. We need next year on Rosenmontag, Rose Monday, where the big carnival tracks are in the cities. And we are planning for that. And so if we are all reasonable now, we can have a normal life quite soon again. But that's why I'm saying be a little bit more patient. It seems we are a bit through the third wave here now. In my city, we are in a good place again. We have yesterday we had the lowest incidence in the whole state again, as we were used to. And in the meantime, we got a little spike there, but now it's good again. And be patient. I stay away from a lot of things still. We have a lot of sessions in video conferences, and I just want to be a little bit more patient. And after July, we can talk about a lot of other things, because then the majority in Germany, for example, will be vaccinated. Everyone who wants, as it looks now, will be vaccinated until the end of July. And that is 2.5 months. We survived that long with being patient, being careful, being cautious. We can do that another 2.5 months. Of course, if I need something, I go shopping with an appointment. If I urgently need something, I go get a haircut, as you can see, with an appointment, but only the most necessary things. And for months I didn't get a haircut. If you look at my older videos, you know what I mean. So it's an overseeable amount of time we still have to go through that. I'm looking forward to go to the Netherlands for shopping on the market, for example, again, but I will do that in due time. And I'm looking forward to travel again, but not until that is solved. So, but that was the preaching part today. I promise that I've got still some more questions here, and I want to answer a few of them too. One is still from Bridget, Ireland, from last week. The EU's decision to purchase vaccine was a great bonus for all countries. This ensured fairness in vaccine for every country. I know there are problems with availability. Why is the EU being blamed for bad handling when they took a brave decision at the start? At the start, they the basic idea to do that together is a good one, I believe. It was not always handled perfectly. The way they were not used to do that, because it's usually not the responsibility of the European Union to do that. And they took too much time for making those contracts. They took too much time deciding on the contracts, and they ordered too few. They wanted to spread the orders over a variety of vaccines because they didn't know which ones will be ready in time. So the basic idea is okay. But if they do that, it's not really, in a situation like this, you can't look on the euro there, as we would say. They should have ordered more from all the companies available. We would have wasted money in the end, that's true, and they try to be reasonable because it's not their money. But in a case like this, I think you shouldn't be too careful with the money at that point. But that was one of the problems. And communication was one problem there. And of course, ideas of some countries about what's fair. The EU just said we split it up on population, which makes sense. But some came then with this vaccine that's so expensive, we don't want to have this, we want to have another one. So the others have to give us from their share of that vaccine because we want to have the cheaper one. And that's where the trouble started. If only the EU would have managed that, it would still have been a bit too late and a bit too few, and would still not have been perfect. I don't expect anyone to be perfect in a situation like this. We haven't had a pandemic like this in modern times at all, with not a lot of dictatorships or monarchies involved. So you can never do it right for everybody. But in this case, they made some mistakes. They admitted some mistakes. The involved governments admitted there were mistakes. But they really got their stuff together in the end. And now it's rolling out. And we will be in a very good situation in July. Then we have a question from Dutch Uncle left from last week. The EU has budgeted to help businesses overcome COVID and to adapt to reduce trade with the UK. What can we expect from the state and federal government? First of all, the money from the EU is the money from the member states. So a big chunk of that is money from our German federal government, and so German taxpayers' money. We get a lot of that back for our companies who are in trouble because of Brexit, of COVID. We also have that for Brexit. That's why I got that one now. We have another 5 billion one with for Brexit damages. but for COVID as well. And it will be handed out by the federal government and by the state government. There will be a share going to the states, and there will be a share that will be handed out by the federal government. On the damages, that is what that money is for, to prevent the damages. The federal government and the state governments here in Germany already spent 1 trillion euros so far, I guess. It was about 500 billion last year and 500 billion this year, if I got the correct numbers in my head now. So they do a hell of a lot. This what we call short time working, so the furlough in English, I guess it is, was a part. The aid payments to pubs and shops and companies and stuff like this came from the federal government. The state government is helping the municipalities because they are losing a lot of economy taxes last year and this year again, and they get the money from the state. And so it's a lot they do. And they will continue to do that until it's over and they can all open again. There were mistakes, by the way, as well. The money came too late. It was too complicated. I completely admit that. Nothing went perfectly there as well. But I'm glad we still have all this. And usually companies that were healthy before the pandemic didn't go bankrupt during the pandemic because they got the aid. We have companies here in my hometown that got bankrupt because they were not healthy already before the pandemic, and that's why they didn't get help at all. But they wouldn't have gone pandemic or not. That's a dude one. And then for Mimi, I had a complicated one on if we continue to fail the goals of the climate agreements and consider the business as usual scenario, can our democracy survive climate change in Europe? First of all, there is no one on business as usual. If you have a look on the EU recently, that how much is done there just this weekend, before the weekend on the summit, they agreed on reductions. They agreed on the way how to get there. And we have the same in the member states. Here in Germany, there was a problem because they only made the plans until 2030 and didn't say how they want to do this after 2030. And our constitutional court stopped that law and told them, if you want to talk about the time until 2050, you have to put in the way you do it until 2050. And not just leave it to the next generation. And so they are all making plans. They are not making perfect plans, everybody knows that, but I still have to say all the people that are only focusing on climate change here, we still have to get it done that we protect the climate, we make the changes in our countries to protect the climate without destroying our economy. That won't help anyone if we just be radical and ideological and don't at the same time have a look for an economically reasonable solution. And that is possible. We can make a lot of decisions pro-climate change without hurting our economy. But we have to leave out ideology. And that is a problem I often see. I had the discussion personally with the members of Fridays for Future here in Münster. They made demands over demands over demands, and then I asked them, how do you want to achieve that? And their only answer was, I don't care how we can achieve that and who's going to pay for that. That's the politician's job. I just make the demands. And that's quite arrogant and so far from real life that I really only could tell them, yeah, what planet are you living on? Sorry, you have to find ways to make it happen and not just make demands. I can make demands all day, but how credible is that if I don't think a second about how to achieve that? And so that's a lot of work, especially in local politics, for example, to think what you want to achieve and how you want to achieve that and what harm you cause. We have since November, have a majority here in city council that is work in ideology and not real life politics. And that is harming our city already. And so that's why I'm always very, very, very focused on that part with the reality. And Christian, yeah, when I start my videos with "We are the Borg, resistance is futile. You're biological and technological." Yeah, I know what you mean. Then you should start worrying. So then I had a question from Dave Singleton about Scotland, and that fits a little bit in what I did in the beginning of the video. If Scotland voted to become independent and were successful and got a trade deal with the UK to maintain their existing large amount of trade with the UK, would Scotland still be able to get a trade deal with the EU, or would the UK trade deal prevent the EU from dealing with Scotland? First of all, one doesn't change the other. But of course, depending on what's in the deal, the Scottish would still have to make sure about rule of origin, for example, that nothing that came in from the UK is just sent to the EU as something made in Scotland. So they have to make sure that this deal works. It changes, of course, when they join the EU. If they want to join the EU, what I think they will, that will end the bilateral agreement with the UK, because then the TCA we have now from the EU with the UK will come into place of that. A bilateral agreement will end when they join the EU. So they can't have bilateral agreements besides the EU when they are a member. But until then, they can have bilateral agreements with whoever they want, but they have to make sure that they stick to the rules of those agreements. And so that's no problem. They can have an agreement with the UK and they can have an agreement with the EU as long as they are not a member. Yeah, there was a question from Gerald Balzer about the Swiss-EU relationship. I talked about a good 1.5 week ago about the negotiations between the Swiss and the EU. What do you expect to happen if the talks fail? I don't expect the talks between the EU and Switzerland to fail, because Switzerland is quite depending on those agreements with the EU. And the issue at the moment is that they want more agreements with the EU. But the EU just said, if you want more agreements, we put the whole thing in one bundle now. And we're not doing all those small little bilateral agreements, those single ones anymore. They don't do that with anybody else, and they will not continue to do that with the Swiss either. And if they want more, they have to put that in one package, like the EU does with everybody else, like they had the talks with India now, for example. They were quite successful in their talks with India this week. And so Switzerland, there was a referendum not too long ago about keeping agreements with the EU and about going ahead with those talks, and the people voted for doing that. And so I think in the end there we will see one big agreement between Switzerland and the EU. And Hank, I still got a question from you last week. Why is the EU still playing nice with Britain? Is it not time to tell Britain the EU has its own rules and regulations, take it or leave it? Well, that is what they're doing, because the EU started their checks on January 1st, as they were supposed to do. And everything that's not fit for the checks will not enter the EU. It's that easy. So they're not playing nice on that case. They are pushing those rules. And in case of the trouble with the French, I have another video on that on Tuesday as well. I'm going to film tomorrow. The French are bringing up the possible ways of the EU now. They are not doing that bilateral saber rattling anymore. They're using the normal ways and the normal tools the EU has to make the British obey the agreements they signed and ratified. And that's what's happening now. And if that continues, what we saw in the UK in recent months, there in the end will be punitive tariffs. I'm quite sure about that. The EU started the infringement proceedings and they will not shy away from punitive tariffs if it's necessary. I think people shouting in German in the Bundestag might send the wrong signal. Most people I know don't even remember that pictures, but not the youth. No, but we have a very strict rule system in the Bundestag about the order of the Bundestag, about what the Bundestag represents for our country. And there has to be some dignity left there. And that's why a lot of shouting is not permitted there. The members of parliament altogether make those rules that apply there. And that's why the president of the parliament or his vice presidents, when they are chairing the sessions, are really firm on getting those rules obeyed. And so you won't see that very often. Then Keith Bennett asked, what sort of sanctions from you, America, to Britain if they keep breaking the law are realistic, and how would they be enforced and applied if either side was to use them? Well, I can't talk about the US there. The US can do things when the UK breaks any agreements with them. And if you mean in case of Ireland because of President Biden, there won't be sanctions, but that could make it really hard for Boris Johnson to get anything from the United States that he wants. And on the other hand, the sanctions the EU can do, I just mentioned them. There can be punitive tariffs that's in the TCA that is ratified now. The sanctions are in there. And punitive tariffs, for example, will apply if they continue like this. Yeah, that's the Lugano thing. I talked about this a lot. Will the EU support the rejoining from Scotland by clearly stating that Scotland, once it has left the UK Union, is welcomed? And second, offering EU support for the splitting process between England, Wales, Northern Ireland Union on one and Scotland on the other side, if asked by Scotland. First of all, a lot of member states made it clear that they will not veto Scotland joining the EU if they want that. If they come to the decision democratically that they want to be independent and in the end want to be a member of the EU and apply for that, the EU member states made clear that they will not stop that. They are welcome. A lot of politicians said that. But I'm quite sure they will not campaign for that. I know that Juncker said in an interview that it was a mistake to listen to Cameron and not speaking out for the EU that time, but there's two completely different cases. In case of an independence referendum, it's a campaign between being in the union with Great Britain, with the rest of Great Britain, or being independent. That has nothing to do directly with the EU at that moment. The EU is not involved in that. At the time of the Brexit referendum, they were involved, and they should have said something. And but also the Remain campaign should have brought up the positive sides, all the benefits you have from being a member of the EU, much more proactively than they did. That was one of the major problems, and the EU should have said something. But in case of the independence referendum, that is not for the EU to be involved in the campaign as an institution. Of course, if it comes to that, I will definitely talk my mind here on my channel. But as I stated last week in a joke question to Simone, and the reasonable people know that I'm not getting paid by the EU. That would be great. I would have a completely different studio and completely different equipment here if they did. And I do this as I would say, very interested person, but as a person. And I can speak my mind as a person, and I will speak my mind in case of an independence referendum. But the EU will stay out of that. It's an internal thing of the UK, and the EU is not directly involved as it was in case of a Brexit referendum, because on that referendum, that was about leaving the EU. Oh, still so warm in here. And that's what I can say about that. I was talking a lot today, I'm quite sure. The time was running. We're more than an hour in now. I just want to have a quick look again. Deleted messages. I'm looking forward to what's coming. I'm looking forward what we hear from Scotland in the coming days. The thing I forgot to mention earlier on is that Nicola Sturgeon wants to have a referendum in the midterm after the pandemic, which is a really reasonable thing, because if they would do that now and to say we are making the legislation now to have a referendum, let's say in September or something, that would be unreasonable to do something like that in the pandemic. And it would be unreasonable from their point of view as well to do that in the pandemic, because for something like that you really want to campaign, and I mean a real campaign. We have general elections in September, and I hope that once again, which I couldn't do in our local elections last year, can really go out to campaign in the way we know it, interact with the people directly, with hundreds of people, and have all these discussions and stuff like this, and being proactive out there. And that is what they need to wait for. Only then you can have a proper campaign and a proper discussion. And so we will not have an independence referendum this year. I'm quite sure about that. It would be completely unreasonable. And what Boris Johnson will do in case of the Finnish legislation in the Scottish Assembly, we will see. They started that legislation already before the elections. They made some preparations in legal terms for the legislation. And I'm sure they will continue with the legislation, but they will not have a referendum this year, I'm quite sure. And regionally, thank you. Yeah, 2 years or in the middle of the current term would be a reasonable time to do that. And of course, it would, let's say, give them enough time to see some Brexit damage despite all the pandemic damage. And so they probably will have more support for their referendum in that case. I'm through with what I was planning for today, so I'm glad you all joined. I have not even looked how many people were there today, but 108 concurrent viewers. That's really nice, and 1,100 playbacks. Wow! So thank you very much for joining me, even on Mother's Day and on Europe Day. Tomorrow morning you will definitely hear something at 6 already about Scotland. Have a look on my other channels as well. I bring some UK stuff there in between as well, but a lot of stuff about what's going on in the European Union if you are interested, because some people agreed that I said people are not interested themselves to get the information. On my European channel, you get the information, what is going on in the European Union, always with a little time delay, of course, because I can report about this after it happened, because I'm not a news station. And but you still see what's going on there and how much is going on there. The Portuguese presidency, like the German presidency, is pushing forward a lot of topics, a lot of great stuff, but almost nobody knows about that. And that's why, with all the work I have to do here, I also do the work on that channel and on the global channel to get information out. I know on both channels, when I have a video about the European Union, or even worse, about the global basics, yeah, it might be that only 20 people will watch that. But those are 20 people that get the information they were looking for, and I'm fine with that. So I have a German channel as well, as my German viewers probably know, which is just my hobby channel. Yeah, if I talk about the local politics here, if 15, 20 people watch that, so what? 15, 20 people have been informed. And so it's something, so it's worth the work. And I don't earn a single cent with any of the other channels, only on this main channel here. I hope I don't annoy you too often with the advertising of my merch, because I really love that stuff on the one hand, and it helps me continue my work. And the recent days I had that again were really nice, telling me that they bought some stuff because they want to support my channel, and at the same time they get something nice. So I hope I don't get on your nerves too much with that, but I really love doing that. And it's creating those is another kind of relaxation from the political topics, even if it's political slogans, and sometimes I hope fun slogans. And so I hope to see you tomorrow morning in my next video, and of course next Sunday again on my live stream. I think I only plan to leave out one Sunday, and that's the election day Sunday, because I'll be in the city celebrating, hopefully. But maybe I will even bring something from there. So have a great rest of the Sunday night. I hope to see you again very soon. Viel Spaß und auf Wiedersehen.